being sued for my post series, The Baby Killers Club, but I don't really care. And you know why, guys? It's because truth is a defense, and in my opinion, these people really are baby killers. All that and more today on The Dr. Joe Show. So before we get into today's super juicy episode, please make sure you've hit the subscribe button if you're new here. The more people that subscribe, the bigger our channel grows. So when I launched my Baby Killers Club series, that's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Back in November last year, it was off the back of the debate on the live births bill in the South Australian Parliament. So, you know, if you remember that bill, quick recap, it was a bill that Ben Hood introduced. It said that after 28 weeks and up until birth, abortion would be banned. You couldn't kill that baby through injecting poison into the heart, but the mother could elect, if she met certain criteria, to deliver that baby alive. Now, she has to deliver that baby anyway. It's just a question of whether she delivers that baby dead or alive. At 28 weeks, there's a 96% chance of survival. So I released my series on the night of the vote of the live births bill to say that any politician who voted against that bill, they were voting to kill babies. And so therefore they deserve to be a member of the Baby Killers Club. And with this post, I accompanied the text. These are the members of the Baby Killers Club, a group of unimaginably unhinged individuals who support injecting healthy babies with potassium chloride in the third trimester and delivering them stillborn, rather than skipping the injection and birthing them alive. All 7 have come out against the live births bill, which would allow a woman to terminate a pregnancy through all 9 months but deliver her baby alive. The current barbaric practices sees the baby's heart injected with excruciatingly painful poison. The mother then goes into labour and delivers a stillborn baby. So we lost the live births bill by 1 vote, and that was tragic. That was there are babies that have been killed this year because that bill didn't pass, and it was heartbreaking. But for the other side, what I think they were just furious about was that we got so close and that would raise so much awareness. We lost by only 1 vote. And during that campaign, you know, so much had come out, particularly through the Advertiser, which started to write actually quite good stories on this issue. So much had come out about late-term abortion that the other side really needs to have covered up. And so, of course, they couldn't resist the opportunity to try and cancel me and us once and for all. So cue the faux moral outrage about the Baby Killers Club. They did the thing that they always do, is they worked with their activist journalists in the ABC and the Guardian to write their hit pieces. And so, you know, the ABC hit piece came out, which said, Law Professor Joanna Howe stands by Baby Killer's social media post following abortion law debate. And, you know, the piece itself is just a lineup of pro-aborts criticising me and judging me and shaming me for how could she do this? How could she be just such a horrible person as to call women who have late-term abortions in the most tragic, heartbreaking situations imaginable, baby killers. And, you know, Michelle Lenzik, who is, should be captain of the Baby Killers Club. She's a Liberal MP. It's insane that she's in the Liberal. She should have been expelled many moons ago. But Michelle Lenzik is aggressively pro-abortion, one of the architects of abortion up to birth in South Australia. She said, as she's quoted in this article, Miss Lenzik also expressed outrage at the post, I'll give you a break, and said, Dr. Howe needs to accept that the majority of South Australian women do not agree with her. I mean, I don't know how Michelle Lenzik knows that. Has she polled South Australian women about their feelings about injecting babies in the heart with poison after 28 weeks? She hasn't, because then that would mean admitting that you do that. That's what Michelle Lenzik is on the side of. So she can't poll. She can't possibly know that the majority of South Australian women side with her. And in fact, the only sort of data we might have is that in the rallies for the bill and against the bill, we had 2 rallies, both of which were extraordinarily well attended, with thousands of people in attendance. And then the other side had a rally, and, you know, there was less than 100, or at most 200 people there. Like, you know, and you couldn't have had the biggest collection of sort of rent-a-crowd lefty protesters. Like, you couldn't have got a bigger crowd than of that particular group. They weren't real South Australian women who are genuinely, you know, wrestling with this issue and passionate about killing babies after 28 weeks. This was the most extreme group of lefties you could get, and they could get like 200. So, you know, the fact that she says Dr. Howe needs to accept that the majority of South Australian women do not agree with her, there's no basis for that. But of course, the hit piece doesn't worry about that, because it's just about character assassination. Professor Katina Denise AM, because, you know, you get You get accolades when you're on the pro-abortion side, and Katina is on the pro-abortion side, and she's ridden that movement's coattails. In fact, she's also one of the architects of abortion up to birth. She says, it says in the article, Professor Katina Denise, who is depicted in one of the posts, said abortion discussion should be left to scientific evidence and good public policy. It should not be on the proponents on either side of the debate, she said. It's so funny, this, faux moral outrage, because she said it should not be on the proponents on either side of the debate. As if, I'd done something so wrong and egregious for exposing the people that were supporting abortion up to birth and who were against this bill. I'd done something so egregious by putting them in the Baby Killers Club when their entire modus operandi is to character assassinate and to cancel me. To write complaints to my university about what I'm doing and to try and get me sacked and to get me banned from the South Australian Parliament. This is the thing that they do. She says, it shouldn't be on the proponents on either side of the debate. Well, that's exactly what her side does, to anybody on our side that ever dares question abortion up to birth. So you're not going to see that kind of analysis in an ABC hit piece. The Guardian's even worse, written by our friend Tori Shepherd, who is just a blatant abortion activist. We've done episodes on her. So it's her headline, anti-abortion activist targets high-profile SA women with Baby Killers Club social media posts. And again, she quotes various people. So Connie Benares, who's another member of the Baby Killers Club who supports injecting babies in the heart after 28 weeks with poison. It quotes Benares, who says that she would ask how to reflect on the damage and hurt she has caused, not to me or my colleagues, but to the families impacted. I'll sleep comfortably knowing I've made the right decision for every woman and family facing the sort of gut-wrenching circumstances that late-term terminations bring with it. And my thoughts are with them and only them. Well, Connie, I don't think you'd be sleeping peacefully at night if someone was waiting by your bedside with a syringe full of potassium chloride waiting to plunge it into your heart. The Advertiser joined in. They had this headline. Flinders Uni academic says she feels unsafe after Dr. Joanna Howe's Baby Killers Club Instagram blast. The law professor is facing demands to delete a social media post that includes a slideshow of 7 high-profile women she's labelled the Baby Killers Club. The first 2 pieces were hit pieces from the ABC and The Guardian, but what was really cool was that this piece by Brad Crouch from The Advertiser actually bothered to tell my side of the story. So I'm going to read you some of it so you can see. It said, pro-life activist Professor Joanna Howe has doubled down on her controversial Baby Killers campaign, ignoring requests to delete social media posts labelling opponents with the term and instead promising to expand it. And I just want to pause for a moment here to say, this is something we should all know by now, but in case you don't, I'm just gonna labour it. Okay, so cancellation worked going back 5 years ago. The left would do this thing where they had their faux moral outrage, they'd act really upset, they'd play the victim card, and then whoever had dared, deviate from the left narrative, they just apologised. They took down the post, they deleted the tweet, and they apologised. And did it work? Did they get welcomed back into the left? No, they didn't. They were still on the out, but all they'd done was just basically go against their own conscience, because if they really believed in the thing that they'd said in the first place, they probably wouldn't have taken it down and apologised. And so I knew here what they were trying to do with these ABC and Guardian hit pieces and all of this, this shame and heartbreak that Benares and Franks and all of them were talking about Denise. I knew that really this was just part of their, this is their playbook. This is what they do. And so there was no way that I was going to take down the post. And every journalist that called me, I said, no, I'm not going to take it down. It's true. It's what I believe. And I'm going to expand it. We're going to do more of these posts. And so the Advertiser led with that. And then Brad Crouch writes, the University of Adelaide law professor said critics now accusing her of inciting hate was silent when pro-abortion activists paraded in front of Parliament House with banners calling on the public to abort Ben Hood. So you've got all these politicians with their faux moral outrage because I said a mean thing. And yet on their side, they're at this rally where they're calling for the literal murder of Ben Hood. And they want me to take them seriously and somehow take down my post. I mean, no chance. Because when you're that disingenuous and you say nothing about violent posters and people and death threats that are emerging from your side, then, who's listening now other than the left-wing media? Brad Crouch goes on, continuing to report our side, which is excellent. He says, Professor Howe said Mr. Hood reportedly alleged death threats from pro-abortion activists to police during the campaign. And then he quotes me, members of the Baby Killers Club claim it incites hatred. I would say that's preferable to deliberately inciting violence against Ben Hood or voting against a bill that not just incites but justifies the killing of babies in the third trimester through a brutal injection of potassium chloride into the baby's heart, she said. The bill did not mandate forced birth, as members of the Baby Killers Club suggested, as the mother has to go through delivery and the baby has to be born either under the present arrangements for late-term abortion or under the bill. The only change proposed by the bill was to ban feticide, a lethal injection of a baby older than 28 weeks with potassium chloride, and to allow termination of pregnancy up until birth through live delivery. So I actually think that, there were two hit pieces and one balanced story. The story goes on. It goes on, about Barbara Baird feeling unsafe, etc. But, it really does actually do a couple of things. It shows the hypocrisy of the other side. It shows how ludicrous it is for them to be claiming that they're feeling unsafe about this post-series, when there's been actual death threats and threats of murder by their side against Ben Hood, but also that the very nature of abortion in the third trimester is unsafe for that baby. And what I really like about this is I was given the opportunity to do those quotes where I actually describe the process for late-term abortion. I'm actually able to tackle the lie that the other side had that this bill was forced birth. And so, you win some, you lose some, but I think the whole thing about this debate is you can't control the mainstream media, but if there's opportunities to get the truth out there and to create that national conversation, then we're making progress. So the Baby Killers Club post was enormously successful in terms of encouraging debate, facilitating discussion of third trimester abortion. It was enormously successful at getting the pro-abort knickers in a twist, which is always a goal because, when you do that, you're above the target because they're getting so angry. And I think that what really upset them was, these are women that are used to getting Orders of Australia, they're used to getting accolades and, everyone just sort of bowing at their feet. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money, all of them are getting that. And, whether it's Katina Denise because, she's commissioned by SA Health to write a report that as a consultant, I can't imagine what the fees are on that, or whether it's Vicky Chapman and you're the former Attorney General and you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in that role. All of them are getting money. And they're not used to this kind of exposure because nobody does it to them. Nobody says, Katrine Hildyard, you're the Minister for Child Protection, and yet you literally support injecting babies in the heart after 28 weeks with potassium chloride. Go figure. Your own department accepts reports from members of the public if a woman's pregnant and they suspect that the baby is being abused in utero because the mum's drinking too much or taking drugs or being unsafe. Katrine's own department will take claims, will take reports, and yet she is one of the architects of abortion up to birth and one of its biggest proponents, all the while pretending to be a Catholic at election time, So all of these women, they are so used to the adulation. And so I think the reason they found the Baby Killers Club post so hard was that it just exposed them for what they are. They're people that support the killing of babies, aggressively so. And, I said to them during this aftermath, I said, if you think it's a problem, sue me. And so two of them did. So in November last year, I received this letter from a law firm in South Australia requesting that I take down the defamatory Instagram posts concerning Dr. Katina Denise and Dr. Barbara Baird. And it's a concerns notice pursuant to Section 12A of the Defamation Act. Essentially what it said is it's a deliberately inflammatory and provocative attack on 7 women, including our clients, comprising the headline, The Baby Killers Club, and the names and the images of those women on mocked-up book covers featuring the same title. Each of our clients, Dr. Onise and Baird, are further described in subtitles on their respective book club covers as architects of abortion up to birth and supports lethal injection for children. I'm reading this letter thinking, so far, so good. This is all true. I honestly believe it. What's the problem? They then say the Instagram post seeks to characterise the respective views and positions of our clients in respect to the complex and sensitive issue of women's reproductive rights, the rights of the unborn child. I don't think anyone's giving a shit about them. These women certainly don't, but it's in there, it's in the letter. And then they say, and abortion law and policy in an unfairly reductionist and extreme manner, which is entirely unreflective of the truth. It's pretty funny, they call me an extremist, but what's really extreme is that these people support killing babies right up until birth. That is extreme. Any Australian any person who has ever seen a baby on ultrasound, who's ever held a newborn baby, who's ever seen a newborn baby, heck, it is extreme to think that these Baby Killers Club members, they support a scenario where that baby has no human rights right up until the moment of birth, that it is perfectly legal through laws they've advanced to kill that baby through all 40 weeks of pregnancy that there is no moment where a doctor can turn around and say, oh, it's too late. The letter carries on and says that the specific defamatory imputations are Dr. Denise and Baird are 1, murderers of children, 2, support lethal injection for children, 3, support the indiscriminate killing of healthy, viable unborn babies by lethal injection without medical or other justification. You can see here just straight away, this is just laughable. Their claim is such a joke. It's never going to get up. No one with half a brain is thinking that I'm claiming that Denise and Baird and Chapman and all the other Baby Killers Club members are just like walking around with syringes full of potassium chloride and digoxin and they're just like waiting to inject them into healthy children. Like, I'm not saying that they are murderers of children. I'm clearly saying that if you're a member of the Baby Killers Club, you advance, support and advocate for the killing of children right up until birth. I mean, they say here, oh, well, I say that they support the indiscriminate killing of healthy, viable unborn babies by lethal injection without medical or other justification. I believe that. I think these women do support the indiscriminate killing of healthy babies right up until birth. That is the regime that they support. You know, under South Australian law, which they were all part of changing, under that law, under the Termination of Pregnancy Act 2021, 79 healthy babies have had their hearts brutally injected with poison and then delivered dead. You know, so if that's not the indiscriminate killing of healthy children right up into birth, I don't know what is, you know. I'm not suggesting that they're forcing it upon women who want to carry their babies to term. No one would believe that that's what I'm arguing or advocating or suggesting with the Baby Killers Club post-series. It's clearly about abortion in the context of an abortion debate. I mean, this is just laughable. Okay, it goes on. Other defamatory imputations that I've apparently made, that I've said that they support practices that are barbaric. Well, that's true. Only a psychopath would think it's not barbaric to inject a baby with poison. And then they said support practices that are barbaric, namely wrongfully injecting highly toxic and painful substances into a baby's heart without medical or other justification. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what they are. I couldn't have said it better myself. This is exactly what they are as members of the Baby Killers Club. They support practices that are barbaric, because injecting a baby's heart with poison is barbaric. I shouldn't have to explain that. It's a highly toxic and painful substance. It is. On death row, prisoners get pain relief. They get anaesthetic before being injected with potassium chloride or digoxin, yet in South Australia, that doesn't happen for these little babies. So, you know, that's exactly what they are. And, you know, it's not defamatory because it's true. I believe it. Next defamatory imputation. I mean, this gets funnier, doesn't it? Apparently there's a defamatory imputation that they are unhinged, mentally ill, unstable and or disturbed, such that they knowingly and willfully support causing pain and death for unborn babies for no good reason. Well, they are unhinged. I mean, you have to be unhinged to support killing babies, innocent little babies. Like, oh my goodness. Like Tom Koutsantonis, the Labor MP, on the night of the vote on the Live Births Bill, he put up a picture of his little baby girl who's not a baby any longer. She's a teenager, but he contrasted with the fact that she was born at 28 weeks. And you see this little baby girl. It is a totally sick and twisted thing to be a member of the Baby Killers Club supporting the injection of baby girls and boys with potassium chloride into the heart. You know, it's just unthinkable. And, you know, they sort of hide behind this, oh, well, there's a medical justification. Well, there is no ever medically necessary reason for a late-term abortion. If the woman's life is at risk, you do an emergency C-section. If she's got preeclampsia or cancer and she needs treatment or whatever it is, you can remove that baby without killing the baby. And you can do that in less than an hour, which is the safest thing for the mum. Killing the baby via an injection of potassium chloride and then forcing that mum to go through labour, that takes 28 to 48 hours. You're not doing that to save the mother's life. There's also no medical justification, even if the baby is sick. So if the baby is sick or they've got a condition where they're likely to die, you can deliver that baby early, give it palliative care in perinatal hospices, and that baby is loved, they're held, they're cared for, they're named and they're buried. They're not discarded and abandoned through a brutal injection and then dumped as medical waste, as if they never existed. I mean, you have to be unhinged if that's what you support. Never mind the fact that the sick babies are the minority. 75 to 80% of late-term abortions in South Australia kill perfectly healthy babies with mums in non-life-threatening circumstances. So you are extremely disturbed if you support that. And then the seventh defamatory imputation, that I say that they prefer current barbaric abortion practices to a perfectly acceptable proposed alternative, which is better for all babies and has no adverse implications, detriments or risks for mothers. I just honestly can't even read this with a straight face, because that is what the Live Births Bill was. It was an alternative, because the status quo is that these babies have no human rights and we kill them right up until birth. The alternative that we tried to create was a scenario where in the third trimester, we can induce these babies alive and early. Now, it's not ideal. The ideal situation is that we carry these babies to term and that late-term abortion is banned. But what we were trying to do was at least try and do something to save these babies. Ideally, you carry them to term because that's the safest outcome for the baby and it's the safest outcome for the mother in most circumstances. But, in situations where she's got some kind of life-threatening circumstance or in the legislation we said, if her mental health was really at this point where her life was at risk, then yes, we could do an early delivery where the mother receives the care and the baby goes to the NICU and receives the care. And indeed, 96% of children at that gestation who are born will survive. So, it was totally an acceptable alternative practice. It wasn't the optimal alternative practice, but the thing that these women, these Baby Killers Club members are pushing for is actually to have the baby killed, which is clearly suboptimal. You don't have to be a genius to know that. So, I got this letter. It worried me for like one moment, like 1 millisecond, because when I read it, I could just see it was just a joke. It was just them, because they'd said in the newspapers that had all this outrage, and I'd called their bluff and I'd said, look, if they're really that upset and they think it's that bad, well, then sue me. And so I guess they felt like they sort of had to save face. So they, spent a couple of $1,000s on a concerns notice from a good law firm. But, I had 28 days to respond, got some great lawyers, and we put in our response just before Christmas last year, which clearly just said, this is a joke. Are you serious? Like, is this real? Are you really suing me for this post series, which is just true? Let's have that fight. I'm kind of disappointed that we're now in August and we're approaching the deadline, because October is the deadline for when they can't bring a defamation claim. And I'll be honest with you guys, the longer they leave it, the less likely it is that they're going to bring this claim, because, if they were really concerned about the defamatory implications, if their lives had really been damaged, and we know that they haven't been because of the pro-abortion establishment rules, corporations, media and politics in this country, like they've not been damaged by this, and they would have had to prove that somehow. So the longer they leave it, the more they've let this apparently defamatory imputation sit. So, the courts aren't going to look nicely on that. So I think it's unlikely that we're going to get sued here, partly because it's just a joke, partly because they've left it so long. All of this to say, I think there's a couple of takeaways. The first one is the new tactics that we're taking are actually working. Calling a spade, stopping using their BS language and their euphemisms, actually assertively taking the debate on our own terms and actually taking these people on for what it is that they are propagating. It's actually working. It's actually a really effective strategy. And so we've got to keep doing it. It's something we've clearly got to do. And then the second thing I wanted to just say is we're actually going to release a line of merch. The Baby Killers Club, no one wants to be a part of that unless you're unhinged and disturbed. But the Baby Savers Club, I'm sure you guys want to be a part of that. And so, we had to spend quite a bit of money to get our own law firm to write a concerns notice in response. And so to cover our legal costs, we're just asking, you can donate on our page, and we're really grateful for those of you who do. So many of you do. So many of you support our work financially. But actually, for the first time, we're going to do a limited edition merch drop so that you guys can be part of the Baby Savers Club. So we've got this new Baby Savers Club t-shirt, which is beautifully made. It's embroidered on the front. And I think the really cool thing about this t-shirt is it's got a bit of mystery to it. It's probably a bit of a conversation starter, but it's also just, your little symbol that you're on our team and anyone else who's on our team. And let's face it, the movement's grown. We've got over 200,000 now on our database and following online. They'll know. They'll know that you're with us and you're on the side of good. This is something that I think is going to become iconic. I'm just going to say that because, I really believe that our movement is going to be the movement that ends abortion in this country. You want to be a member of the Baby Savers Club. You want to have one of these mugs. So thank you very much for watching this show. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really grateful to have all of you with me in this movement. Down below, there's going to be some links so you can pre-order this merch and we'll get it to you. So thanks very much. I'll keep you posted. If I end up in court, you'll be the first to know. All right, that's today on the Dr. Joe Show.